Hey everybody, this is Karen Allen from Trinity Health Hub. Eugenie has asked me to share one of our webinars for you to enjoy during this holiday season. Our hub specializes in continuing education and community connection all around the globe. If you'd like to find out more about what we do or the content that you can stream on demand, visit our website, trinityhealthhub.com. We look forward to seeing you online.
Okay, so welcome everybody. I'm very excited about this session because Miranda made this presentation at the JAHC conference in spring of this year. And there was so much good thinking in it, thinking about how do we do homeopathy? How do we match homeopathy? How do we explain to clients the ideas and to ourselves and to each other about when is something indicated and when is it not? And if it acts or doesn't act, how do we process that? And so this is a fantastic summary of so many ideas. I want to encourage all of you, please take notes. Please write down the things where you think, oh yeah, I could have said that to such and so client, or I could have said that to myself in the mirror, or I could have said that to my kid or my friend or whoever. And Miranda's gift is being able to articulate ideas that are relatively complex or sophisticated in a really clear way. She's been doing this so long that she's got it boiled down to a very articulate communication. So I asked her if she would do this same presentation for us on the hub, and I want to encourage you guys, put comments in chat, put in any additional questions that you have, and set aside this time to be quiet and really focused. I know a lot of times when people are on webinars, they've got their phone going off and they've got their kids running in and out and the dog needs to go out and they're answering emails and they're whatever. And I get it. We're all busy. I just really want to invite you to focus. We've got a good amount of time here to really get some deep roots in something that's so important to be able to articulate, think about, and explain. I just want to invite you all to really be here and welcome Miranda.
Oh, Karen, honestly, thank you so much. I don't know how deep or profound I'm going to be today, frankly. Mostly what I'm going to be is clear, that's right. And wrap things down. Like Arnica doesn't always work. I don't know, did you say this or did I make it up? I feel like Arnica is our gateway drug. It's our inroad into homeopathy. Many people have seen Arnica work. They've experienced it for themselves. They are hooked forever. You can't forget that. But then when it doesn't work, what the heck? What do you do? How do you think like a homeopath? How do you train your patients to think like homeopaths? How do you think like a homeopath when you hurt yourself? So off we go. And so I just want to appreciate, Karen, your vision, your dedication, your pertinacity, which is one of my favorite words. You just go for it. Go for really big projects and you make them happen. So the hub is brilliant. I appreciate all the people who are studying homeopathy and both home prescribers and students trying to make it work for them. And I also really love Arnica. So today, what to do when Arnica doesn't work, how to think beyond Arnica, how to think rationally, logically, and know what the right remedy is, not guess, but no, having done those steps. We sometimes forget when we're injured, we can't think clearly, and how to be fairly certain when Arnica that isn't indicated, when another remedy is going to work. How can you be certain of that? So I'm going to pepper this with a story, maybe more than one of my own. I sprained my ankle very badly last month. And I mean, to the point where I was worried. I thought maybe I had broken a bone. You know, you've got all those little metatarsals. I'd broken something. And I ran home. I could walk, so maybe I hadn't broken anything, but you don't know if there's a hairline in a metatarsal. And well, I didn't run. I hobbled home. And I grabbed some remedies, ice packs, elastic bandage, and elevated my foot, took to the sofa. Here are the remedies I grabbed. You know, Arnica, bryonia, rustox, ruta, and hypericum. So I put these next to me. And I had no swelling. It was that quick, within 1 minute. But I took Arnica anyway. What the heck? Because you do sometimes. If you can't think of anything else, you take Arnica. And the pain was excruciating. It was very bad. I put ice on it. The pain stayed the same, or maybe got a little bit worse, but I persisted with the ice because that is the received wisdom. Put ice on your ankle. I'm going to come back to this ankle in a minute, so we're just going to keep returning to it when we get bored with everything else. Okay. So what does it feel like when Arnica doesn't work? People, you get confused. How come? People say, it helped my friend's child or my friend, but didn't help me. Then people have to resort to painkillers. They get disappointed, sad about that. They feel defeated. They say things like, I tried homeopathy. It didn't work for me. It didn't work for my spouse. Honestly, I gave up on it. People say that all the time. So we have to put our thinking garlands on at a time when Arnica is not indicated, or we've tried it and it doesn't work, or it is indicated and it doesn't work. Because taking or giving the same thing that your friend took or gave is foolishness. And our patients say that frequently, don't they? I tell people, you took painkillers, big deal. Don't be sad. They're not that bad. And if you're new to homeopathy and remedies don't work, you can feel disappointed, especially if your friends have had wild and crazy successes. What did you do wrong? Never mind, buck up. And honestly, you gave up. This is a really interesting, dinner parties, or when we used to have dinner parties, remember those days? Oh man. Well, in your Zoom chats, when you're having a cocktail with your family or whatever, and they're saying, yeah, I tried homeopathy and I gave up on it. Just ask them this. Did they give up on conventional medicine when it didn't work? Remember the antibiotics they took for the urinary tract infection and had to repeat it, and it still didn't work that time. And eventually, the symptoms cleared up. But how many times did they try conventional medicine and keep going back again and again? So don't give up on homeopathy just because it didn't work once or twice. So here are the things that these are all real cases that people have called me with. Some are fairly recent. My kid fell and smashed his front teeth. Arnica didn't work. I banged my head on a cupboard door. Arnica didn't help. I smashed my finger in a car door. Arnica hasn't helped. My kid was whacked in the eye. Arnica didn't do a thing. My friend broke her wrist. Neither Arnica nor Symphytum have done, helped at all. So this is just the beginning of finding out how whether homeopathy can help, not the end of giving up on it because it didn't work, especially if the remedy was selected for a single symptom. I'll say that again. If you select a remedy based on one symptom, your chances of it working very small, whether you're a homeopath or a home prescriber. Okay. So let's take all these cases and go a little bit further with each of them, because then you ask the question, tell me a bit more. The dentist says there's hope with the kid with the smashed teeth because, says there's, my chat is over the thing, says there's no hope because the teeth are already going brown. They've become discolored. The one person, I think it was a woman, could have been a man, doesn't matter. The person who banged their head on a kitchen cupboard door has a headache and can't think straight. That's not good. My kid got whacked in the eye and he has a big old black eye. The person who smashed their finger in the car door is experiencing severe pain. The friend who broke her wrist has a swollen wrist and it's very painful. With a little bit more information, maybe 2 legs to the stool. It's not going to get you a good remedy, but it'll get you closer than Arnica. Bit more information, enough to ask a few more details. Whoops, hold on, sorry. The problems. Arnica is pretty much our only specific. Even hypericum for nerve injuries is not the only remedy for the complaint. It's good that we've got a specific. Very good. Dorothy Shepard talks about it in her books about how good of an ambassador it is for the whole profession. It's amazing when it works, amazing how often it works, maybe placebo at times, we don't care. Like I said, selecting a remedy based on a single symptom, not how homeopathy works, not the best way to use it. You want magic? You've got to work for it. So this is, when people say, how does homeopathy work then? I say, we don't know, but I have an analogy for how it works. And this analogy has worked so well for me that, and patients always love it, is it works like healing ripples. My job is to get that pebble to land, that healing pebble to land in the middle of your pond so that it sends ripples out to every part of you, healing ripples. Homeopathy heals from the inside out. It's really that simple. You know all this. It stimulates the body to heal itself, but the ripples in the pond are pretty nice. So a pebble thrown on the edge of the pond, it's not going to reach the whole person, is it? The whole pond. It will just ripple away in a part of the pond, which is no shame, but you just have to keep repeating. You have to keep throwing the same pebble in again and again and again to get the same result as the pebble in the middle that ripples out and heals from the inside out. So we call this the simillimum, but I wish we'd stop and call it a simillimum, because there isn't one simillimum. The simillimum is the remedy that fits the whole person at any given point in time. That's all. And when you get that pebble in the middle, often just one remedy is all that's needed, Arnica or not. This is classical homeopathy. It's elegant, it's repeatable, it's magic. I love it. Okay. We talked about pebbles landing off center and combination remedies, a little bit like two pebbles thrown into the pond. The ripples are going to be not quite so clear and clean. They're a bit disorganized. That combination, if it has 5 or 6 remedies in it, maybe not so, we really don't know. We don't test them one at a time. So we only test them one at a time. We don't test them as a combination. We don't really know. But this remedies that land off center are just fine. In an acute situation, you go from one remedy to another, or an acute illness, for the different stages, and there's no shame in that. Okay. So this combination remedies, I like to think, are like several pebbles thrown into the ponds, sometimes without knowing exactly where the pond is. Many people just read the pack, the main label on a bottle or on a package, and if it says sprained ankle, they're going to take it. But really, they have to read the remedies to see if that's an intelligent combination with remedies that have good relationships to one another. You want that. You don't want remedies that antidote each other. Also, with a sprained ankle, you want Ruta in there. You really do. That's those small, ligaments, periosteum, the small, tough tendons that once they're stretched, they take forever to heal. And a lot of sprains remedies don't have Ruta in them. And some combinations are that bad. It's like you throwing the pebbles over your shoulder backwards. I mean, you're just missing everything. So typical remedy responses, people after a similimum, people feel brilliant. I feel good in myself. And the symptoms tend not to recur. You do good. A similar remedy, people feel good. And they may need another remedy or that remedy repeating over time. This is the bullseye. This is, not quite so close to the center, but it's no shame. This is a good remedy. And the specific remedy, which lands on the edge of the pond, people feel the same, no better, no worse, and their symptoms improve, but they need the remedy repeating and they keep coming back. Of course, that may not be terrible for your bank balance, depending on whether you charge for every visit. So this is just quick reminders for homeopathic sleuths. One person, the whole person. As many symptoms as possible, but not every symptom. Be discriminating. Match a whole person with a whole remedy. Also, not every symptom. Get more than one symptom. 2 is good, but 3 is much better. The 3-legged stool. You want it to hold up, give or take, one remedy at a time, and write everything down.
Well, write everything down. Wouldn't it be great if we could just have that tattooed on everybody's forehead?
Something. The inside of their...
Right. Inside of their eyelids, write it down. Yeah.
As homeopaths, as a homeopath, once every 5 years, I forget to write a prescription. It's always catastrophic. Catastrophic means I can't figure it out. I didn't run a MacRepertory graph. There's nothing in my notes to trigger my mind. It's 2 years because too much time has passed. And now that remedy worked great. and now the patient's returned. It doesn't happen very often, and I have fail safes for it. I write it in 3 places so that if the next patient is early, current patient is late, I forget to put it in one place, it's in 2 others. But like I said, once every 5 years, all those 3 fall through some kind of virtual crack in my administration, and it's nearly always, 50% of the time, it makes, it's a crying shame, literally. So, because patients aren't paying, sometimes the patient's written it for you. And now I do send an email with that information. So that's a 4th place where that does, I can trawl through my sent emails and find it. But if you're running an acute and you're doing it in between patients and people, you still have to write it down because you don't know when you're going to be brilliant. I mean, really brilliant. And you want to remember that for the future, for future patients, especially if you had to work really hard for a remedy. The next time it'll be a piece of cake and you'll look so clever. But also you want to write it up and share it with us all, won't you? So write it down, everything, even if it's just quick notes, reminders, the date, the time if need be, why you chose the remedy, the upshot. Like I said, mostly you'll not remember. Okay, Arnica. I'm not going to give you a lecture about Arnica, you know it. So this is, what I am going to tell you is this is a slightly different way of looking at a remedy. It's in the synoptic keys, you'll see this structure a little bit. What I've done is the kind of injury, overexertion, bruising injuries. This is what is the affinity of Arnica is to soft tissue, injured muscles. What kinds of injuries? Many, everything, head, fracture, sprains, strains, physical trauma, with swelling though, right? Swelling, that's the main symptom, with or without bruising. The pains are sore and bruised. These are all keynotes that you have to have them. Worse for touch. Worse for touch. Says I'm okay because, and there's a reason why, because they don't want to be touched. Because they're worse for touch. And that's why they say I'm okay. So it's good to get this gestalt is very clear. And people often do this after an injury. So yeah, throw Arnica at them. So this kid with the smashed teeth, yeah, he's old enough that it's his permanent teeth. They're a bit loose, they're discolored. His dentist says the blood supply to the tooth has been affected. The nerves may die, and if that happens to the tooth will die. The dentist's also concerned about an infection, wants me to give wants the patient to take antibiotics. The kid couldn't bite on an apple. They hurt too much to do any kind of biting on hard foods. They're sensitive to cold. The mother gave him ice cream, like you do when your kids hurt himself. And he didn't want me to touch the teeth or his mouth. It was a horrid fall, and I think he's still in a bit of shock. Should we give aconite? Shouldn't we give aconite? Should we give aconite? So that's a question, and the answer is probably not. So let's, anatomy and physiology, super important with accidents and injuries. Honestly, you cannot know enough about the anatomy and physiology of different organs and tissues. And, when I found out that the cornea is mainly epithelial tissue, had a patient who had a bad injury to her cornea, and just calendula on its own in a nice high potency was the remedy that totally cleared up the pain and healed the injury. They weren't sure because there's not a lot of blood supply, I think, to the cornea. And so it's hard for it to heal. So dig down, Wikipedia, the Merck manual online, dig down, find out what. So teeth are fascinating. You think of them as being bone in bone. Yeah, kind of. Here's the bone of the jawbone here. Here's the tooth, but they're attached with ligamentous tissue. They're like, they can be rocked. They're cushioned in your mouth. That's why they don't break when you bite on hard foods. Toast, for example. Burnt toast, which I hate. And they act as shock absorbers. But when you injure your teeth, these ligaments, they're all stretched out. That's why the teeth go loose a bit. And then the nerves, these running into the center of the tooth, these can get affected. So remember this with patients, the children you see who are having braces. Each time they get they get them tightened. A lot of children really suffer with braces. They are incredibly painful and disruptive. But when they're tightened is when the worst. And that is often a situation for Ruta because of the tissues, or Staphylococcus aureus because of the emotional state. So, Arnica check. With this kid, is there swelling? No. Bruising? Nope. Soft tissues in? Nope. Pain, sore and bruise? Not at all. So it's clearly not an Arnica. No wonder Arnica didn't work. So what do we got? Injury to teeth, painful. We probably want a remedy that has an affinity to nerves as well as ligaments, periosteal tissue. We want a remedy that's worse touch and cold. Yeah, worse touch. That's the only symptom we had for Arnica. And maybe shock from injury, maybe. So let's have a quick look at hypericum. The affinity is with the nerves. Crushing injuries to nerve-rich parts, painful puncture wounds, surgery or childbirth. Hypericum, along with ledum, prevents infection, prevents sepsis. It's good to remember that about it. And the pains are severe, shooting, tearing, worse cold, and worse pressure. And it's a good remedy for shock from injury. Let's look at Ruta. Affinity with the periosteum, with ligaments, tendons, cartilage. So this is sprains and strains, repetitive stress injury, bruises that are slow to heal, leaving hard lumps and knots. Symptoms that where the parts feel stiff and lame, and the pains are sore, bruised, and strained. This lameness is a keynote for the remedy. Worse lying on the painful part, better warmth, and people typically just feel weary who need this remedy. So let's do a comparative materia medica with these two remedies for this patient. Hypericum is more for nerves, Ruta for the, ligaments. Hypericum has severe pains. They're different kinds of pains. Hypericum is worse cold. Ruta better warmth. That's a tricky one, isn't it? Because they basically could be the same, but it's not how they're expressed. And hypericum has more shock than Ruta does. So here's our thinking. The dentist says the nerve's dying. Our primary goal is to heal the deepest tissue, the deepest injury first, really quickly. And hypericum fits his whole picture fairly nicely. So we gave him a 30C every 2 hours on day one, and then 2 or 3 times a day for up to a week. And I said, once the bad pains have healed, give him Ruta until he can, repeat it until he can bite on using his front teeth. And then, of course, cell salts. Once the injury had healed, cell salts as a tonic to strengthen the teeth and gums and jawbone, this whole area, for a couple, 2, 3, even 4 weeks. So hypericum helped the pain. After 2 days, that eased, so she stopped giving it. And the discoloration dissipated within a few days after that. That is, dentists always say, things like, I must have remembered that worse than it was. They say annoying things like that. Teeth was still a bit sore, so the mother gave Ruta low potency, 6C, twice a day for a week. And after that, she gave cell salts when she remembered. So here we are. He didn't lose his front teeth, no trauma, just sweet and beautiful. Let me now go back to my ankle. You're dying to know, aren't you? I took Arnica, didn't do a thing. I think I might have taken Bryonia because it seemed to be worse movement, but that didn't do a thing. I've had Bryonia indicated a lot and never worked for me for injuries. It's funny. So then what I did take next was Ruta. I took it a few times thinking, well, it's very painful, and did nothing. So, all right, so I'm going to come back to that because now it's been 2 hours. I've been on the couch, on the sofa with my foot elevated with ice on it for hours. And I'm not crying in pain, but it's an 8 out of 10. It's that bad. And it's at the point where some people take painkillers. I get that. But the minute you take painkillers, you destroy the evidence. You don't have symptoms. And so I'm calming myself down, watching some silly things on television, just calming myself down so that I can observe. So I've taken 3 remedies. None of them have done a blessed thing. Okay. So here we have this woman with the head injury, but she did it a week ago. She's had a headache for a whole week. Could it be connected to her head? Duh. My forehead and the back of the head hurt a lot. Bright lights and noise are bad. It feels kind of migraine-y. She doesn't usually get them. And she's been off, more irritable since this happened. I'm really struggling at work. My mind has been foggy. If I can make myself take a walk in the fresh air, I feel much better. So nice to get a general symptom. One physical, an injury, one pain, one mental, one general, and you are, if you can fit that well into a remedy, you're in business. Is there swelling? No more. Bruising, maybe deep bruising. Are soft tissues injured? Well, not covering soft tissues that cover the body, maybe brain. Are the pains sore and bruised? They're not. So we got 3 legs, headache after head injury. Affinity, we want the head injury. Pain, worse light and noise, better fresh air. And then the mentals, irritable, foggy thinking. So I am going to, okay, I'll come to that in a minute. Let's go. So we do think of Nat Self, don't we, as number one for headaches after head injury. It is the number one remedy. Pain at the back of the head, especially the base of the skull. Symptoms are the pains are boring, gnawing, bursting, pressing. They're worse light and noise. They're worse cold and better fresh air. They are irritable and depressed and can't think. Well, look, slam dunk, wouldn't you say? You'd just give that without thinking twice. Unless you'd repertorized. And if you repertorize these symptoms, you will see that natrum mur comes up, number 2. It really does. Affinity with the brain and the head injury, but especially brain injury. The forehead more than the back. The pains are hammering, throbbing, bursting, worse light and noise, worse heat, worse mid-morning, better rest. People are more depressed, less irritable. So let's compare the two remedies. Different parts of the head, different pains. Natrum mur is always worse heat. Natrum sulph worse cold. Natrum sulph is more dull, can't think. Natrum mur more depressed. And natrum mur is more dry in general, whereas Nat Self has saliva during the headache. So we have 3 strong keynote symptoms for Nat Self. And I gave Nat Self 200, 3 doses close together and every 2 hours. That's my typical prescribing, to just run 1 every 2 hours for 3 doses. I could have given 30. You know, people say, what potency? And honestly, the best potency is the one people have, the one you have. If you've got a full pharmacy, then okay. 200 is nice and strong for a healthy person. She's slept and woke up feeling fine. Headache, what headache? You know, that one. The smashed finger. You want to know about my ankle? So I'm going to tell you about what happened to my ankle. So I observed my foot moving. It's the most extraordinary thing that was happening. I thought I was trying to find a comfortable place where it didn't hurt. I was. But I couldn't find a comfortable place. My foot was going like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. I was turning my body constantly. I would move it, get a bit of relief, wait a bit and go, I wonder how long the relief will hold. Didn't hold very long. Pain started up, moved it again. Totally restless. Wow, didn't feel restless. But when I observed and described what was happening, I had to say, yeah, I'm moving it constantly. The ice packs. I had a big one, wrapped the whole foot. I mean, it was a bad sprain where if this is the foot turned this way. The whole side of my foot was already, well, the swelling wasn't too bad because, you know, I'd taken Arnica and I'd got the ice pack on it. But the pain was unbelievable. And I got a fresh ice pack after 2 hours. And I said, hang on a sec. is this cold making it worse? I took the ice pack off, it was still bad. I went and got a heating pad and wrapped my foot in the heating pad. And within 5 seconds, I kid you not, within 5 seconds, I felt like my foot had died and gone to heaven. It was just amazing. I turned it up. Ended up turning it to the highest setting. And that was bliss. I kept a heating pad on my foot for 2 days. You're not supposed to put a heating pad on a sprained ankle, are you? But guess what? This injury in this person, that's what helped. So now what is the remedy, I ask you, for a bad sprain with restlessness, better pains, better for heat? You do know, don't you?
Anna says Rustox.
Ta-da!
There you go. Yep.
Well done. So, I mean, that's kind of remarkable. You know, with the various injuries, some of you who know me might know that I'm a little bit accident prone. It's sort of, I don't have that many accidents, maybe one every few years, but it's a bad one. It's traumatic. It's really, and this is my second COVID injury. I had another one about 6 months ago. So that's 2 in 1 year. That's not good. So I'm moving at a slower pace now. Within an hour of taking 1 dose of the 200C, I felt better in myself. I felt the pain beginning to ease up. I took 3 doses, no more remedies, nothing.
Love it.
My whole foot went black. Whole foot went black after, 2-3 days. I quite like that. When you have a bad injury, it's really good to have some evidence, a little bit of, it's fascinating. There was no pain, no limitation. I could walk 2 miles. So that you get the right remedy and it heals from the inside out in a way that those other stupid remedies, they would help, but they would never do the trick. They would never heal at a deep level that enables you to just get back to your life. Okay, the smashed finger. It's swollen and aches like crazy. It's a deep aching. That's why I thought Arnica would help. So this is a healthcare practitioner who's done some basic training in homeopathy, couldn't understand why Arnica didn't work. It looks like I may lose the nail. It's turning black already. The whole fingertip was a bloody mess. My doctor wanted me to take antibiotics just in case, to prevent infection. I've been icing it and that's helped the pain a lot. I yanked my arm when it happened, so my arm and shoulder are all sore. So is there swelling? Yes. Bruising? Maybe. So the finger pads are soft tissues. So maybe. Are the pains sore, bruised? What does she say? Well, it aches, deep aching. Not sore, bruised, but deep aching. It's close. We have a crushed finger, swelling with discoloration. We have aching pains, better for cold, ice cold, really. And so this is a finger before, after an injury, it's not the same finger, it's someone else's. After a crushing injury, a piece of concrete fell on her finger. And this is, they told her she would lose her nail and the top of her finger. And actually, the top of her finger regrew and the nail, they said the nail bed had been so badly damaged. Where is it? If the injury takes off the bone and the bone and the nail bed, then the nail is lost and doesn't grow back. But even if there's a tiny bit left, it will grow. Anyway, hers was, you can see, was super bad. And again, tissues, what have we got? Tendons, nerves, all kinds of, the nerves are really the major issue in a crushing injury of the finger. So we know hypericum, but also ledum is the other crushing injury remedy. And both ledum and hypericum have this in common. They both prevent infection. They both treat crushing injuries. Ledum is more for black eyes. They both do punctured wounds. So it's a crapshoot sometimes. You just give one. If it doesn't work, give the other, or sometimes give alternate. You can alternate them. If I can't speak to the person, I find it more beneficial to give one remedy at a time. If it doesn't work, to move on. That's my MO, if you like. The pains for ledum are aching, sore, bruise, severe. They can be stabbing. They're worse warmth and better cold, especially the colder the better, cold bathing. And an honorable mention here is for calendula, which is for healing to any wounds where the pains are, keynote for calendula every time, the pains are out of proportion to the injury. It's a graze or a bit of a cut, but big deal. And the kid is screaming its head off, they are really suffering. So choosing between these two, pretty tricky. Hypericum's worse cold, ledum's better. Hypericum has the shooting pain, shooting up the limb, whereas ledum, the pains are more aching. Like I said, everything else is similar, although the injury to nerves is more significant in hypericum. But we had the better cold. I gave ledum 200C 3 times daily for 2 days. All symptoms improved by about 60%. And then she repeated the remedy from time to time over the next 2 weeks when the aching pains increased. One time, this person bashed their finger by accident on the furniture or something, and all the pains came crashing back. Was maybe a couple of months later, and I had them make up a solution, put it in cold water, and dip their finger in it. I mean, that, had they been better for warm bathing, I would have had them make it up in warm water. So, the kids' black eye. Black eyes are tricky. Black eyes are not straightforward. My kid got whacked in the eye when she was roughhousing with her dad. His elbow got in the way of her eye. That's the mother being a little bit sarcastic, I think. She's mad at her dad for hurting her. She has a big old black eye. The whole area is black and blue. No, it's not so swollen, but her eye is really bloodshot. She says it's painful, sore, like a bad bruise. The mother tried Nice Pack, but she hated it. Warm compresses help the most. She says they're very soothing. So, Arnica, no swelling. Yeah, there's bruising. Not really soft tissues. The eye, doesn't really count. But the pains are sore and bruised, so maybe. But we've got bruising to the discoloration to the bony tissue, the orbit of the eye. The eye itself is bloodshot, The pains are sore and bruised, better warm compresses. So let's have another look at Lidum because this now is also for black eyes. One of our top, I don't know, maybe 4 eye injury remedies. With Lidum, remember the pains are aching, sore, bruised, better, cold. Symphytum is an eye injury, black eye where the bones, periosteum, and the eyes are all injured, especially where the blow has been from like a football, something smashing into this whole eye area, so everything gets hurt. The eyeball is bloodshot, pains are sore and bruised, sounding better and better, isn't it? Better warmth. Now, aconite. Aconite is, I don't remember where I read this now. It's the arnica of the eye. Do you know who said that, Karen? Do you remember this?
I do remember reading it.
Yeah.
Maybe Alan?
I don't know, or was it Dorothy Shepherd? Could have been, or Tyler, Margaret Tyler. Anyway, think of when there's an eye injury, especially to the eyeball, and there's redness there and shock. No, arnica will not work. Aconite will. So I had a kid last week who the mother said he had a bad head injury. 4 or 5 months ago, we gave arnica, nut sulf, I can't remember what else. And she said his eye is red since the head injury. How can that be? So I said, and she checked, the doctor said there's no conjunctivitis, there's no inflammation or infection. It isn't red all the time. It's red in the evenings or when he's tired, and it's bright red and it's sore, bothers him. Well, that's weird, isn't it? Because it's for all sorts of reasons. So I went back and over, and I eventually said, well, because this parent had called me. She said he'd been whacked on the side of the head. I thought she meant the side of the head. But when I didn't ask enough questions. This is another Homeopathy 101 case taking. Exactly where was the injury? The injury was to the surrounding, just over the eye, so half the orbit. The eye got whacked, but it's 5 months ago. So I said, okay, eye injury, redness after, arnica didn't help, aconite. It's all gone. That symptom disappeared. Just one day of aconite 30 and it hasn't returned. So with this kid with the injury, it was a toss-up between Lidum and Symphytum. But Symphytum won because of the modality, the general symptom of better from warm compresses. And it fit her symptom picture better than Lidum. And just 3 days of Symphytum, 30C, twice a day. No further remedies were needed. It healed. Beautiful. And I think this is our last case. And how are we doing time-wise, Karen? I didn't bring we doing great?
Yep.
Okay, good. So this is a friend who broke her wrist 10 days ago, and it's still swollen and very painful. She decided, this is a homeopathic person, who wasn't a terrible fracture. It was a hairline in a place. I don't remember the whole story of this one, but she decided she could wear a stiff brace, tied it on nice and tight, and not cast it. This is what we used to do. Used to take a piece of wood and stick it, wrap it, and that way you still had a bit of movement. Of course, if you've got a very bad fracture. You can't do it with a piece of wood or a, brace that you get from CVS, but she could. And it's possible that some of the swelling and pain were from it not having been cast. But I couldn't see that was the case. What I could see was that she had been able to immobilize the wrist, but could still use her hand. And I think that really helps with long-term recovery and healing after a fracture, if you can keep the muscles juiced up a bit. So there we go. She's got her arm in a sling and a hard brace. We used a sling. So the wrist is surprisingly swollen. Arnica should have taken care of it. It did not. The swelling is soft and, curiously, a lovely pink color. You can't make this stuff up, can you? I mean, people really do their bodies do these wonderful things. It's like a special, they're talking to us. They're saying, I need that remedy that has the lovely pink color, that one. So the pains in the wrist are very unusual. They sting and they burn. And these are much worse. If the arm gets hot in the brace, you have to tear it off and put an ice pack on to calm everything down. Cold is tremendously soothing. She's been irritable, which is unusual for her. So, who are we guessing the remedy? Is any? You can want
to put in here what you think. We have
you can guess the remedy if you want.
We've got a suggestion of Apis.
Anna's guessing Apis. What good job. So, yeah, I mean, would you give Apis though for a fracture?
Or inflammation around the fracture? Maybe.
See? So good. You are thinking right, you guys. So it's Arnica check. This is not Arnica. She's had Arnica, it didn't work. Symphytum didn't work either. So we've got the fracture, we've got a pink swelling, pain, stinging, and burning that are better for cold and worse for heat. And we've got irritability. So we've gone through symphytum. I don't need to go over that again. Let's look at Apis. Allergic reactions or infection after injury. We know that, anaphylaxis. But the injuries, there's a history of it helping with fractures and sprains and strains, even though we know it mostly for burns, bites and stings. So it's the general symptoms that guide us straight to this little remedy: puffy, rosy, red swellings. The injured part feels hot. The pains are stinging, burning, prickling like hot needles. They're worse warmth, better cold. And people who need the remedy are restless and irritable. So Apis was given 30C, just a few doses over the course of a day. And the response was like dramatic. Pains and swelling reduced to the point where they were barely noticeable. And only sporadic doses were needed after that, as and when the pains returned. Cell salts were used to finish, the healing of the fracture and strengthen the injured bone. So what's the time?
We are at the top of the hour, so we had an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It was workable here, so we are at 60 minutes in.
So any questions or comments before I go to my charts? I've got some charts for you.
Roxy says with ledum, a lot of times ledum tends to feel cold on the surface of the skin, and so sometimes that can help.
It's a feeling of cold that is better for cold.
Which is kind of weird.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's, you almost don't need any other symptoms when you get that. The strange, rare, and peculiar, it's just, fabulous.
Yeah. So I just wanted to point out, Miranda does something that's quite robust as a practitioner. There are a lot of us who spent a ton of time in school learning how to do chronic and constitutional care. And when something comes up where we have some kind of acute thing to deal with, sometimes we might be less confident about approaching that than about approaching chronic deep cases where we're taking a big full case. And one of the challenges that sometimes people have working with acutes is following the dialogue of the vital force. And in the first case that Miranda talked about, she gave a remedy, she gave another remedy, she gave a cell salt. She was working with the dialogue of the vital force. And here again, she's doing this thing that as a robust practitioner, you're not just a one-trick pony. You're able to say, here's a remedy. Here's something you're able to evaluate from an affinities, from sensations, from, what is the nature of the pathology that we're dealing with here.
It's more important than almost anything in an injury to know what is actually hurt. I happen to have on my desk Gibson, first aid in accidents and ailments. This was my first, one of my first, look at it, it's all in tatters. I made my own index, index of keynote remedies. I mean, I cut it. I cut it, in order, because I had traveled with it in my backpack. So when I took it to Bali, to Indonesia, I took it everywhere. Anyway, what's annoying about this, Gibson let me down finally when Daniel got whooping cough. I was 19, 16, 18, 19, 28. I'd never studied homeopathy. I didn't have any materia medica. I was just, shooting from the hip. Oh, there's 6 remedies for this complaint. You just give one if it doesn't work. You don't really understand what you're doing and how or why. Anyway, having a methodology is so brilliant. It helps with every kind of case. But injuries, people are so grateful. They're so grateful. This, I used my joints cream. Actually, I didn't take any remedies, but I've used this on my ankle a few times when I remember, when it's a bit achy, because it has a cell salt in it. It has thiocyanamide to dissolve scar tissue, and symphytum and ruta. So that you want a cream like that people can apply. It makes them, especially if they're not taking remedies, it makes people feel like they're doing something if they need to. Okay. I created a chart so you can do cross-referencing for the remedies that we've covered here with their keynotes. But I did something else for for the Homeo Summit. I gave a talk on injuries and accidents, and I created a more comprehensive chart, which, did any of you go? You talked at it, right, Karen? But you spoke at the summit. And hold on, let me get rid of myself. There we go. Are people coming? Yeah, Rose, welcome. I'm sorry, the times got mixed up for this class, but you'll be able to watch it, won't she? She'll be able to
Watch
view
the recording. Yeah, I apologize for the time mix-up.
It's my fault. I have 5 planets ruled by Mercury. all scheduling errors are my fault.
Retrograde now, yeah.
Yeah, Mercury's retrograde as of the 14th for another 2 or 3 weeks or something.
Yeah.
So you take doing a chart like this makes you really think about the whole accident and injury. That it's kind of it's not so simple. It's very time consuming, and doing it helps you remember what heals what. So take these charts, print them out, because the font is so small, you'll only just be able to read it. Make your own charts is what I'm saying. Speak to you, speak of your experience, your knowledge, what you've been taught, and what you've seen with injuries. So, and I'm just going to hunt and peck here. I'm going to go to and fro.
You know, while Miranda's talking about these, I just want to remind you guys, the very best place for one of these charts is inside your bathroom cabinet door.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Never lose it, or inside your kitchen cabinet door, preferably where your remedy kit is.
Or on the fridge. I am thinking of printing these out and laminating them. Making, I've got a whole series of them for all kinds of flus and colds and coughs.
So useful, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So aconite, we all know, big deal. Apis, we all know now really well. Arnica, belladonna, this is for the hemorrhages, but also for sunstroke. So the sunstroke remedies are belladonna, glonoine, and, hold on, and sol. Those are my main remedies. And sometimes sulfur, which isn't on this chart. Sulfur is more, prickly heat. But for actual sunstroke, belladonna and glonoine are the top 2 remedies. They're both wild, violent headaches, violent symptoms. Belladonna's more dilated. The pupils are more dilated. They're more delirious. And glonoine is more painful. And you've given belladonna and it doesn't help. They're both worse heat. They're very hard to differentiate between the 2. And sol is especially for people who've never been well since sunburn, along with natrum carbonicum. Now, the chronic effects of sunstroke, so this is the acute effects of sunstroke, but the chronic effects where people have weakness, fatigue, headaches, long-lasting headaches. They have skin symptoms, rashes, itching. They had a bad sunstroke and they've never been well since. Natrum carbonicum is the first remedy to think of. So that's that little quartet of remedies. And you could find a way to sort of, get a highlighter and highlight things. And that way they'll sort of, the things that are symptoms that are important to you will leap out. Also, if you do your own chart, you might not care about the source. You might get rid of this column in order to use it for maybe mental or emotional symptoms. Or put in some more keynotes. Other remedies here that are, hold on. hamamelis. So I did my first COVID injury. I did this crazy thing. There was a plastic bag on the floor. I didn't see it. It was a clear plastic bag. It wasn't visible to me. And I rushed across the room, reached to get something on the table, and I slipped on the bag. Oh. And the table, the edge of the table, which is actually, it's a dining table. It's not wood. It's, what do you call it? Veneer. And the edge is very sharp. It's a very sharp edge. I scraped the whole of my arm. Oh. I mean, with the weight of my whole body. And every single blood, all the small blood vessels, all of them burst.
Oh, no.
I mean, I'm not easily frightened. I've chopped the top off my thumb. I've done the craziest injuries. This swelled 1/2 inch out from my arm and went neon blue, immediately. It was frightening. I couldn't look at it because I had a lump here, bad one. I thought, oh, I've broken something. So I went to the hospital just to have a quick x-ray. You have to make sure. And then the main remedy I took was hamamelis and a little calc floor and a tissue salt to heal all
those vessels.
All the blood vessels.
Wow.
So don't, hemorrhoids, but they're just blood vessels, aren't they? Think of them. That's like a little overlooked remedy. I feel quite sort of affectionate towards it now. Let's go here and see the surprise. Oh, the burns remedies. Yes, okay. So cantharis, causticum, urtica urens. Urtica's number 1, mild. Cantharis is next, 2nd degree burns, more burning pains, better for cold. Yeah, if you're a homeopath, you'll stick your burnt finger under hot water and you'll expect it to be better. And I will just have to leave the room because that's not homeopathy. That's stupid thinking. That's saying, oh, if it's a burning pain, it should be better for heat. Yeah, one time I got stung by a jellyfish, a man-o-war. It was one of the worst things that ever has happened to me. And my dog must have grabbed a tentacle with his foot, dragged it across my toes. That's all he did. I didn't see it happen. I just felt someone stab a knife into my toes. But there was no knife. I'm walking on the beach. I couldn't figure it out at all. And it became a Facebook event. I put it up on Facebook. I didn't know what to do. People told me to pee on it. But the research has been done, and peeing on a jellyfish sting doesn't work at all. It's something sailors do. But what else? They haven't got anything else, I guess. They could slap some fish on it. Anyway, I had burning pains that were for me uncharacteristically much, much better for heat. I mean, so much better, it was remarkable because the pains were burning.
Wow.
And so there are only a few remedies that have that symptom. Of course, arsenicum is number 1. Arsenicum is neurotoxic. The injury was from an animal. It releases neurotoxins that I've got it written up. I'll put it I'll give it to you so you can post it with this, because it's a very it's entertaining if it wasn't you that it happened to. But it also, I learned a lot, and I wrote it up in excruciating detail, each and every step, what happened. Some people's burning pains are better for heat. And one time mine was, but everything, if I burn myself in the kitchen, I have to use cold. And Cantharis is the remedy that helps me.
Wow. You were talking earlier about hamamelis. One of the things that hamamelis does that's great is when you burn your tongue on pizza.
Oh.
If you eat hot pizza and you burn your tongue,
yes.
burn the roof of your mouth.
Yes.
Hamamelis has a very strong affinity there. So even though we think of it as this blood vessel remedy, it's also the pizza burn remedy.
Okay, I learned something. Thank you. So that's good to know. I'm going to add it, to my job.
Okay.
So then Kali bichromicum is for 4th degree burns. For electrical burns, I once flew to New Zealand, taught there, and it was a crazy trip. I arrived in the afternoon and I had to teach the next morning. And it's a long flight, man, it's long. Woofda. And so this was, 15 years ago, and our computers were just rubbish back then, weren't they? I ran out of juice in my computer. The first thing I did, and I bought an adapter, the first thing I did was plug my computer in. So the principals of the school picked me up from the airport. I walked into the house, walked into the office, plugged the computer in, and the plug blew up in my hand. And the whole room filled with black smoke.
Oh my goodness.
That smelled of burning plastic and skin, burning flesh.
Oh my goodness. What a welcome.
Well, you feel terrible. So, like I did with my arm, this business where you just protect it and think, send to yourself, take a deep breath. How badly injured are you? What do you need to do? Do you need help? Where can you get help? Okay, so the principal's standing right there. She is freaked out. I did this immediately. I thought, I don't want to look. I'm not going to look just yet. I said, where's your bathroom? And I ran to the bathroom, put my fist under the tap and just very, very slowly opened. And it was, my palm was black, but I had a hole in one finger and some burns around, but this was very bad. Just one finger, and I could move the finger, so it hadn't severed anything. How lucky was I? And it said on the adapter, it was, I bought the proper thing. It's
one of those electrical things.
I took causticum. She called a friend of hers, a doctor, who came and cleaned it, debrided it, dressed it, said, do not take this dressing off for 5 days. Just keep it on. It's going to take a long time to heal. It's very bad. I took causticum and it didn't help, not one jot. So I can't remember if I took any other remedies. And so the principal of the school, who was a good homeopath, said, you know what was unusual about that burn? It was like it had been punched out, with a metal die of some kind. It was just totally, the edges were punched out. it's a keynote for Kali Bichromicum.
Wow.
And also the electrical burns, and also the fourth degree. It hadn't ulcerated yet. There hadn't been enough time. So I took Kali Bic, probably 30 or 200, not so high. And the pain started easing, and I had the dressing off within 4 hours. 4 hours, 5 days, wow. Ridiculous. That evening, and we watched it heal, actually.
That's an amazing story.
Put a Band-Aid on it. I still have a black tattoo mark from the...
You know, causticum is a Kali. Sometimes we forget that.
Excellent point.
Kali bichromicum is just like one step to the left there, isn't it? Or one step to the right. And I wouldn't have thought of it at all in this. So that's a great example case.
There are other remedies here that I saved my son's life with pyrogen. I've told that story all over the place. You guys don't want me to tell that.
You guys want to hear the septicemia story?
No.
A good story, of course. Yes, please.
Oh, damn. He's 5 years old. I've only been in practice. I mean, he might be 7. I've been in practice for 5 years. And he comes back from his dad's house. He's been there for the weekend with a graze on his elbow that had swollen, was very swollen, like the size of a grapefruit. And there was a red streak up to his armpit. And his glands were swollen. All his lymph glands, his armpits, his abdominal glands, his groin, all swollen. He was delirious. He never talks. He's very sort of quiet child. He had a fever of 104. He had terrible pain in his head. Every time he sat or stood up, he screamed. He wanted to go to the toilet. I had to carry him there. He had to stand to pee. He's 7. You have to stand to pee. And he screamed the whole time he was urinating. I mean, like moaning loudly, probably screaming is probably exaggerating a little bit. He had no perspiration whatsoever. His pupils were dilated, shiny eyes. I mean, it was a slam dunk. I had given belladonna earlier on before the symptoms of septicemia. So this is 1985. And I knew really I should have taken him to the hospital. They would have given him IV and oral antibiotics maybe, and they might not have saved his life. Back then in England, I knew that was, I just thought, well, we read the cases, it should work. It didn't. Belladonna didn't work. There wasn't another remedy. I found another homeopath in town. It was Friday night. I found somebody. I said, what do I do now? And we both decided we had to give him pyrogen, even though he had no sweating, no smelliness. Both of those are really strong keynotes for pyrogen. I gave him a 10M. I said under my breath to myself, and you have to know that I had a student staying with me. This student watched the whole thing like with their jaw, their eyes like gig lamps and their jaw open. Okay, I gave a 10M and I said privately to myself, you've got 5 minutes. I'm dialing for the emergency services in 5 minutes. So before it had even dissolved in his mouth, he sat up and spoke normally. I gave him 6 doses, 1 every 5 minutes. After the second dose, he asked for some watermelon because he was thirstless to boot. So he had no thirst at all. Another keynote for, what's her face, for Belladonna. No thirst. I gave him some watermelon. He wanted to play cards. We played Snap. What is that? Is that called Snap in this country too? You know, where you...
Yeah.
But every time I said Snap, he just jumped out of his skin. He was like very vulnerable. Anyway, after the 6th dose, he lay down. This is now 8 o'clock at night. He lay down, went to sleep. And I sat with him until the red streak broke up. And that happened at 1 o'clock in the morning. And he came into my bed at 8 o'clock, having slept 12 hours without waking. He came into my bed without one single symptom. We went fishing.
Wow.
I called his dad later that day. I said, hey, what happened? He was with you. What happened? To try and unpick. And eventually, he said he had we went to the park, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, did he eat? What happened? What did, just try and retrace the day. So he scratched, he had a little graze on his elbow. Yeah, he fell. Yeah, no, it wasn't that bad. I don't know. And then he said, oh, yeah, there was that moment where he found a dead rabbit under a bush. I said, okay, so he saw a dead rabbit or he picked up a dead rabbit? Oh, he picked it up. And then what? Well, we made him put it down, of course. But then, did you wash his hands afterwards? No, why would we do that?
Oh, wow. Well, that's your vector of transmission right there, isn't it?
So it was pyrogen, which is made from rotting meat. The disease that caused it, staph probably, but was a dead animal, a similar animal, not the same one. So we love that, homeopathic thinking. But here's the rub. I studied pyrogen, the Peruvians, every line. I thought, how could I have known it was pyrogen without the keynote symptoms right at the beginning? And I could. Here's what. Here's how. When he peed, went to the toilet, I saw with my own eyes, but I was stood there as a mother. He was screaming in pain, urinating. So I was holding him and comforting him as a mother. And the homeopath, the observer in me, temporarily checked out. I saw it, but I didn't remember it or make note of it. I didn't think about it. What is it? The urine. What color was the urine? He hadn't drunk anything. He had a temperature of 105. What color should the urine have been? It should have been yellow, orange. It should have been orange. It wasn't. It was clear like water. Now go to Alan or Fatak and you'll see that's a symptom for pyrogen. It's one of those strange, rare and peculiar symptoms that could have confirmed the remedy. It was beautiful.
Oh, how fascinating. Wow. Do you guys have comments about any of that? We're just about at the half hour. So if you have questions for Miranda about any of the things that we've covered so far about her fabulous story.
What potency? I don't remember. See, we don't care. Whatever potency she had, it would have been 30 or 200 probably. Wasn't so high. The remedies that I haven't talked about here that just honorable mention that are on this chart that you wouldn't find so easily elsewise. Myristica sabifera is an amazing abscess remedy. It's probably more effective than silica. It's that good. And it's an overlooked remedy that is just killer for abscesses that look like silica, or silica doesn't work, because that's the remedy, you know. And you go, what was that remedy on Miranda's chart that she said? That's what, you know, that's your, and go and read any Materia Medica, go and read it, and you'll see, wow, how come we weren't taught about this? I wasn't. Then the two remedies for radiation burns are sol and radium bromatum. But with radium bromatum, you get a bigger picture. It's a bigger remedy that we know of. And so you want the picture to match a little bit with sol. You give it when radbrom hasn't worked and you don't have a backup, another remedy in the wings. And then the chronic sprains where people say, yeah, rust toxin root to help, but that ankle's still weak and it's still, you know, I've still got pain in it and I don't want to keep taking first aid remedies. Strontium carb is like the chronic of every sprain remedy. It works like a charm for old sprains and strains, chronic sprains that didn't heal properly and are still bothering people. So those are my, you know, just quick tips for accidents, injuries, and
Excellent.
a few extra remedies to consider. So thanks, everyone. I'm sure you've all got stories of your own. Write them up.
Yeah, please do, because we all learn from everybody's experience. Well, thank you, Miranda, for a great class. I'm super glad to have this session. I know I learned some things, and I also learned, again, from watching the way that you think and explain things, all of us now have a better way to communicate about this with ourselves, with our clients, with our friends.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much. This is my final thoughts about homeopathy. I just love it. It can be time consuming, annoying, demanding, but honestly, it's nearly always worth it. You know, you can talk for hours and just save weeks or even months of suffering, can't you? Even with the stupid injury, it's worth taking the time. So I've got in this, here are my favorite first aid, accident and injury remedy, you know, books, homeopathy. And this is my favorite, the springs in Northwest, Central Florida. These springs are the best kept secret after COVID. You know, if you all come here, you have to, they're deeply healing places to swim and renew. They're the same temperature the year round. They come out of the aquifers, hundreds of years old. The water is filtered through the limestone for hundreds of years. And in the winter, the manatees come and have their babies. And it's just, they're the best.
They are wonderful. I remember going to the springs with you when we came to visit.
I have a picture. I should have dug it out. I'm sorry. I didn't think. I have it still somewhere. I will. So thank you, Karen. Thank you for being a force, a vital force in our community. Thank you for, it feels very nice to be back on the hub.
Oh, I'm super glad to have you here. And guys, for those of you, please look on the calendar. Miranda's going to be, you know, last year she was doing things about, you know, kitchen medicine and about supplements. And she had, and all of those classes are out there on the hub for you to stream. And at the time that she did brain stuff last year, somebody had said, hey, can you talk more about cell salts? And so we've got that on the calendar. So in November and December, she's going to be doing sessions where she's going to go through cell salts. And this is not to be missed. So find it on the calendar and make sure that you RSVP, okay?
And hey, Joy, the book, you'll get a PDF of the slides and, all the books and links, everything will be in there.
Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. Take good care, Miranda, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Happy,
Bye-bye.
healthy homeopathy.